Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to our February book chat, y'all. Guess how many books I read? Too many. Have you ever read so many books you're trying to figure out did all of that actually take place in the same month? Like, it feels like a whirlwind, and for February to be the shortest month of the year, for me to have read 19 books is outrageous. And it seems like some of these books I read ages ago. But let's get into it, get a snack, get some water, because we're going to be here for a little minute, y'all. Let's start off with the first book. A couple of things. Some of these books I did listen to on audiobooks. Some I fully did on audiobook. Some I did in tandem. And some of these books are shorties because if you remember from my February TBR, I said one of the things I wanted to do was read shorter books since it was a shorter month. So a lot of the books on here are going to be 300 pages or less, more so around the 250-ish range. Some of them even shorter than 200 pages. So also keep that in mind. But the first book I read was The Night Guest, and it's by Hildur Knutsdottir. It is a translation. Y'all, this book is so you could literally read this book in a couple hours because the chapters are so freaking short. Chapter 17 is a page. Chapter 18 is not even a full page. There's also some chapters in this book, it's a sentence. So this is such a quick read. This book is one of those books that when you get to the end, you're just like, okay, did this happen or this happen? It is supposed to be a thriller. I don't know if this is considered a thriller or a horror. I actually think this is considered a horror. But it's not there is some things that some people might consider gory. So especially if you're a fan of cats, you might not want to read this one. But this is about this lady who she wakes up in the middle of the night, but she doesn't know she's doing this. She gets up she buys the way she finds this out is she buys a, what is it? The thing to track your walking or whatever, that kind of watch. And she forgets to take it off one day. And when she wakes up, she may have walked, let's say 8,000 steps that day. But when she wakes up, it's 45,000 steps. And she's like, what? So she's trying to figure out what's going on. And every day she wakes up, with bruises or, things out of place. But let me tell you, I just don't understand some people. Because at some point, this woman wakes up and she looks like hell ran over twice. And she is bandaged. I was like, okay. She didn't secure the remote. Anyway, this lady wakes up and she is bandaged severely. And instead of the guy being maybe we should go to the hospital. Maybe we need to figure out, because she's just oh, it's nothing. Because of course people be trying to figure stuff out on their own. And they end up having sex. And I'm just if I was in a room with somebody that looked like that, the way they describe how badly beat down she is, that's not what we're about to do. But it's a weird one. There is maybe possession. I don't really know what's going on, but it's one of those books that end and you're like, what? But like I said, it takes a couple of hours. It's an easy read. It's not the greatest horror in the world, but it's cool. The next one I read is Horrorstor. This is another one that's pretty short. It's 200 and something pages. It is a very cute book. It is giving IKEA. This one I did like. So basically it's about IKEA. Well, it's about a store called Orsk, which is supposed to be IKEA. And it's just about it's so funny because they talk about how the store is laid out to get you to shop. And it's making fun of the IKEA setup. But basically they come into the store one day and stuff is out of place. Either things have been damaged or soiled. There's funny smells. So the manager is we're going to stay overnight. He gets this group of people. We're going to stay overnight to figure out what's going on. And all of these crazy things happen. They find out some things about the space that the building was like originally on, and you know, they're trying to figure out like what is going on and why are all these crazy things happening, and it takes them down like a rabbit hole of like things that took place on this land years ago. So I actually liked it. This is by Grady, Hendrix. I thought it was cool, easy read, good little horror. This gore factor, I don't think this one was too gory. And yeah, the other one like wasn't that gory. Like, I don't think the first one was either. It's just like, you know, they described some things, but it wasn't too gory in either of them. The next one is called After She's Gone. This is by Lisa Jackson. This is one of my Dollar Tree finds, and I listened to this one completely on audiobook. I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you go back and watch that video, and I'll try to remember to link it to this one, you can see like my in-depth thoughts, because I do like a reading vlog to see if I like audiobooks, but then also talk in detail about the book as I'm reading it. I like this one. I do think it is a little wordy, but it does have a pretty good twist. Like, the twist when you first hear it, you're going to be like, oh, I feel like that was predictable, but they have like 2 other twists in there. So it was a pretty good book. It's about these sisters, Cassie Kramer and Allie. Allie is missing. Well, Cassie, their backstory is basically their mom is in the business as well. And years ago, like, this guy was like stalking them and trying to like take all 3 of them out. So they have that trauma. Cassie has had a lot of different issues, and she's had to be like hospitalized because of it. And her sister goes missing. So everybody thinks it's Cassie that did this. Some things happen on the set, and they're trying to figure out like who took Allie and who's like after the sister group. So I do think it was a good one, but it was just so wordy in places. So it is one of those books that I was like, okay, I'm thankful for audiobooks because it helped me get through it. Now, this one right here, The Night in Question, I was reading this book for like 4 or 5 months. And the book is not bad. So this is about Flory. She's 87. She's at like a retirement community, assisted living home. And 2 incidents happen where one guy loses his life because he like trips and fall. And then the like director of the home, quote unquote, jumps out the window. But Flory's like, something doesn't seem right. I will say this is supposed to be a mystery, but I feel, and this one is by Susan Fletcher. I feel like this reads more, because okay, here's what I don't like about this one. They go into these chapters that are about like her past and her past loves, which were in fact interesting. Like, this woman has had a life, okay? Even when it talks about like her first husband, or actually that might have been her only husband that she got married to. But her like husband, when they start breaking that one down, I was like, wow, like, she has lived a very interesting life and has had very interesting things happen. I just did not come for that. I came for the mystery. So when we were in the chapters about mystery, I was there. Every time it pulled into the past life, I was kind of like, okay, but I don't need this. So it would take me a really long time to read this. I loved listening to this one. Those past life chapters did kind of take me out of it. However, her life stories got even more and more interesting as the book went on, where I was on a walk, and I like literally was like, oh my gosh. So they get better when you learn all of that, but because I went into this looking for a mystery, it was kind of like, okay, that's a lot. The twist, like the discovery of what happened and how everybody was involved and how everything was connected, was actually really good. So I think for someone who especially likes mysteries, but they like more, I don't even know if it's like just that fictional just story, this is a really good one for you. So that's that one. Now, this is one of those books, this is a shorty, and this is one of those books that make me not want to take recommendations from certain people, because this book, and then this book right here, I'm not going to take it. Oh, you can see it. This book is called Black River Orchid. I'm afraid to read that book because I read this one, and the same person recommended both of these books. Now, this is a horror, and that's supposed to be a horror, and I'm cool with it. But there are different levels of horror. I am more of a slasher horror person. I am this kind of horror, this some disturbing mess. And the book actually is called This Skin Once Wait, I can't read. This skin, what? I did not ask you for your commentary. It's spring break, y'all. This skin was once mine and other disturbances. Disturbing for no reason. I feel like sometimes it's like, why'd you sit down and write that? So this is a shorty in a shorty because this is a short book with 4 short stories. This is by LaRocca. All right, let's talk about this book. The first short story I felt was like, that's something I've heard before. Like, I feel like we've seen that before. So yes, it's disturbing. And I was like, oh, dang. But it's something you probably saw in like a TV movie before, right? Then we go to the second story. And I was like, what the heck did I just read? Like, did somebody actually get taken out? Or did like this thing happen naturally and then you just lost your shit and mute? Then the third one was like, so you went in the store, this person asked to do this to you. You didn't think that was weird. You went along with it, and multiple things that happened. Like, how is this even normal? And then the last thing, y'all know I like my old people, but why was these old people so freaking crazy? Like, first of all, why was y'all playing the game y'all was playing? And when I tell you, like, the thing that happened at the end, I was literally like, why you do that? They didn't do nothing to you. I can't even trip. There's literally a full page letter saying, you might not want to read this. Listen, it got a whole letter. Eric wrote a whole letter trigger warning and I didn't listen. So I deserve everything I got. Read it if you want to. Missing White Woman by Kellye Garrett. This one is about a couple who is going on this little vacation or whatever to New York, and the girl wakes up, the man gone, and there's a dead white lady that people have been looking for in the house. I like this book. This book gives the same energy that I'm looking for it. When No One Is Watching, it's by Alyssa Coile. It gives that kind of energy. It gives that Get Out, like, vibe. I thought somebody actually said that on this book, but it gives that kind of energy or that kind, like, okay. It gives the vibes of When No One Is Watching, where she talks about how white folks see black people in gentrified spaces, because that plays a lot into how people viewed her and viewed her innocence. My issue with the girl, though, she was just, what a chick name. She was just making some dumb decisions. Brianna, like, some things were happening and it's like, you really have to read the room in a situation like this. And then, I don't know. I liked the book, but I just feel like her character kind of got under my skin at some points. And at first I didn't really realize that until I read a review. And I was like, I can see what you're saying. Because there were points where I'm just like, you're being stupid. So you have to deal with that. But I will say, as she pieces things together, that was really, I thought that like the twist, the ending and all of that was actually pretty good. And how like the whole thing was solved. I will say, I think the way she liked this guy, because they weren't even together for that long, was kind of annoying. And that drove a lot of her actions. But other than that, I didn't hate the book. I thought the book was decent, but you just have like those annoying character quirks in there. This one, Such a Bad Influence by Olivia Muenter. I did this one on audiobook. This book had some really exciting points because, like, if you go back and watch the reading vlog, there were moments where I was like, oh my gosh. But then it hit these really bad lulls. And quite honestly, the twist, like the thing that's like, oh, that's what happened. And then it hits another lull and then it gets to the end. And like what they tried to do at the end, I was like, oh, okay, I can, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I think it's a good listen though for the highlight parts where I talk about or as exciting. But basically, let me tell you what it's about. Okay, it's about this influencer, or this influencer's sister. So the main character is really Hazel, but the story is about her missing sister Evie, who's a big influencer, and their mom is an influencer. I'm not going to tell you how they got deep into influencing because that gives away part of the shock value. That's one of the sections inside of the book where I'm just like with a pretty like interesting part of it. And what happens is Evie goes missing, so they're trying to find her. And you find all this stuff about like how her mom is like, what her mom is doing. And it's really talking about the current issue where we have like parents just kind of putting their kids on social media and the effect that has on them, and are they doing it for the right reason and all that kind of stuff. But that's what the book was about. Like I said, I liked listening to this one because it has so many different narrators, because some of the scenes are like Reddit or vlogs or comment sections. So really fun, and there's so many different personalities with the different narrators versus having like one narrator try to do the different voices and personalities. So that was good. But when you get into those parts where it's just really like Hazel or like other characters, it's just kind of like, meh. There's too many words. Now the next one is by Mr. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent himself, with Erin Phillip Clark. It's called The Accomplice. This was another short one. It is under 300 pages. It's like 245 pages or something like that. This type of thriller is like those cop TV detective dramas. So this is about Nia, who is a like the first Black Texas Ranger in this area. And this is actually told, it starts in the present, but it actually goes in the past and then comes back to the present. It is actually really good. There are some cheesy parts in there. I do feel like there were some scenes where they pushed it too much. So trigger warning on a couple of things there, dealing with like SA and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I feel like they could have kept that out to just make it kind of one of those Walker Texas Ranger type vibes. So basically this is about Nia and like a past case she had. So because that case is now coming up in the future. So it's about, how she tried to like take down this guy named Desmond, who was like this thief and like stole something from like this major family, white family in the area. Very important because the thing that he stole from them. But that's what this is about. But it's detective drama. So, but besides the triggering things that is in here, this is a pretty, it's so hard to call it light. If it wasn't for those things, it would be like an easy read. It's good, but I feel like somebody who really gets triggered by that, don't read this. But if you are someone who can read and still like enjoy a book with that, it's a really easy detective thriller. So this is like a detective thriller. The next one I read, this is so out of my genre. I've talked about this a couple of times. I actually did this one on audiobook, and this is what made me do the audiobook video, because I actually read this with my co-workers. Radical Candor is by Kim Scott. If you listen to this on audiobook, do not listen to the version that the author does. She sucks. And it's so funny because I was looking at reviews and everybody was saying like the same thing. She should not have read this. But if you can get the version, I think the lady's name starts with a T. I think there's only 2 versions. So just don't get the version with her. But the version with the other lady, it makes you think that that other lady actually wrote this. And I thought it was really cool. We loved it as a team and we did it in our book club. So if you're looking for something like that, this is about, it's called How to Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. But it actually helps for people who don't necessarily, I feel like it's just how to be a good person and be productive at work and be a good person within your work community. So even though all of us aren't trying to be like manager, it helps anybody. So the next one is The Only Good Indians. This is by my guy, Stephen Graham Jones. This is the kind of horror I like, okay? I like Stephen Graham Jones horror. So this one is different from his other books, like the Indian Lake trilogy or I Was a Teenage Slasher, which are more like slasher horror. This is more like Native American folklore horror. I did this one in tandem. I did part of it on audiobook. I read like probably a little over 50% of the book, and then I did the other part on audiobook because it does hit like a little low. So this is basically about these friends, about 4 different Native American men, and something happened in their past that is basically catching up with them. So long story, okay, I'm gonna give you what happened. They go hunting when they weren't on land that they were not supposed to go to, that were restricted to the elders, and they take out some animals. And let's just say the past comes back to haunt them. So one, it really followed each person, each friend in the friend group has their own story. Some of their stories are shorter than others. So some of them, their story is kind of quick, but it kind of builds as you go through each person's story. And then you get to the last story and it's like, dang, like, was this real? Was it in their minds? Like, this one, I would say it could be considered gory. But I did like it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like the story with, is it Lewis? Like Lewis's story, I was just like, did that really just happen? Because like as you're reading it and it happens, I was in shock. But I love Stephen Graham Jones. I did switch to audiobook because it did kind of hit like a lull after it was coming out of the things that was taking place with Lewis. But then it picks back up. But just to get me through that lull, I started listening to it on audiobook and I just enjoyed it. So I finished it there. All right. So I'm going to have to stop because my phone is going dead. So I'm going to be dead. All right. Finally, I'm back and I can finish. We have 8 books more to go. So not too much. Now this one is One of Us Knows. This is by Alyssa Coile. And this is her second thriller. You know something? This is why I have to read the back of books. Because I was like, I don't know if I can tell y'all this. Because I don't want to spoil the surprise. I was surprised. The second I started reading, the reason I was surprised is this book was on my shelf. And I hadn't read the back in forever. So basically, this girl named Kenitra has a dissociative identity disorder. So One of Us Knows, of course, I didn't get it when I was reading it until it started. And I was like, oh, one of us. So basically, she gets this job at this resort. And she basically, in order to like officially get the job, she has to make it through the night. And as she gets there, well, when the book starts off, she doesn't remember applying for the job. She didn't remember how she got it because her other identities have been at the forefront and not just like in a moment for like years. So basically she gets this job. She goes out to this place. She happens to run into her ex and she's like, the ex is like, well, why are you here? And she's like, well, why are you here? What are you doing here? I'm confused or whatever. But basically some sinister stuff is going on this island. She meets someone there. I can't remember her name, but she meets basically the caretaker of the property, whom there's some surprising things there as well. But you meet the caretaker, and everyone who's at this property is there specifically for a reason, even if they themselves don't know. So this does deal with racial issues like toward women. I enjoyed this book. I will say I like her book when no one else is watching a little bit better. I do think it can get a little confusing because there are so many characters, because like every one of her identities is a character. And the book isn't super long. It's a little over 300 pages. However, I really did like this book. The reason they are there is freaked up. Like, it is insane what these people feel like they are able to do and get away with. So this actually reminds me of like scenes that happened in, I can't even remember. It's an Ashley Winstead book. Like, I'll put it on the title, but it reminds me of like scenes in that book. So if you've ever read that, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But this one wasn't bad, but I definitely did like When No One Else Is Watching better. Now, this is another one. Oh, I also did this one on audiobook. I did not do it fully on audiobook, but I did switch over to audiobook, and I really did enjoy the audiobook version of that book. This next one is actually a Christmas theme book. It is a thriller called You Better Watch Out. This one reminds me of the book Hide. I talk about that book. That is one of like my favorite reads. But basically, all of these people... Oh, it also reminds me of the book... Ooh. Is it Good Girls Don't Die? It's not Good Girls... Maybe it is Good Girls Don't Die. If it's not that, I will confirm that on the screen. But it reminds me that basically these people wake up in this like old school town, and they are trying to figure out, one, how they got there, and somebody's trying to take them out. So I was so completely freaking shocked when I got to the end. I did not see that coming. So if somebody else sees it coming, like you already knew, like you had the inkling that something's not right, but the thing that wasn't right is so super crazy. And then the justification of the person at the end, I felt so bad. But this one was really good, and it is one of the shorties that I read. It's like barely over 200 pages. The next one, this is a Dollar Tree find. It's by Michael Brandman. It's called Risk Factor. This is a buddy steal thriller. When I say this is old school cop show in a book, okay? Some of it's going to be real corny. It is so simple. It reads like See Spot Run. Like, y'all, I am definitely going to scour the Dollar Tree. I don't know if I would pay. I don't know what the regular price with this would be. I don't know if I would pay full price for this, like, especially if it's over like $6. But I enjoyed it because it was literally like those old corny detective shows. Yeah, so this one basically, there's these robberies happening, and they're trying to figure out who's doing the robberies, but there's also like this cyber crime that's happening that involves the cartel, and Buddy and Quinn are trying to get to the bottom of it. Now, one thing that threw me off is I don't think this is like the first book in like this series. So the relationship that he has with the person named Quinn, I think that's, yeah, that threw me off a little bit because I was like, how you go from meeting this guy and being super familiar? So I think in other books, they've already interacted, but I liked it. I mean, I read it like in a day. It was cute. It was good. I would definitely pull those off of the shelf more often. But like I said, straight 90s old school detective thrillers. This one, Jackal, this was recommended by a friend of mine at work. It is by Erin E. Adams. This does give Get Out vibes. It actually says that. I read this thriller that is Get Out meets The Vanishing Half in one night. I don't know what The Vanishing Half is, but I do know Get Out. It does give those vibes. It's about this girl. She is from this small town called Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It is very small, very white. And basically, over decades, like Black young women have gone missing in this town, but no one's ever really put it together. Like, they're like, oh, these people ran away, whatever. Liz finally comes back for her friend's wedding, and things start occurring. Now, she actually, you find out that she was at risk when she was younger, but the two don't come together. Like, so, because a young girl actually goes missing, like, during the time that she was living there as a teen, around her age group. But this book is basically about what happens, and let me see if it actually says, yes, so it does say, the night of the wedding, her friend who is getting married, their daughter actually disappears, and that actually keeps her in the town longer. Now, the one thing I didn't like about this book is a little bit of like the magical element of it, simply because I wanted it to be a different thing. Like, I didn't want there to be a, oh, this thing is causing it type of thing. But other than that, I like it. If you read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just like, I like this story, but I just really wanted it to be a thing and not like an outside force along with the thing, if that makes any sense without me giving too much of it away. But definitely enjoyed it. Now, this one called William is by Mason Coile. This one shocked me. This is also a shorty. It is a little over 200 pages. I don't know, whoever, y'all need to, if y'all didn't watch Smart House as a kid, that's why y'all be fooling around with shit like this. This is Smart House, but for adults. Like, you brought this on yourself, because when I got to the end, I was shook. I was like, dang. Didn't see it coming. But do I feel sorry for your ass? No. This book was really good. I enjoyed it. It's about this guy who's Henry. He's an engineer, but he has agoraphobia, so he never leaves the house. And he's built this robot called William or whatever. His wife is pregnant. His wife Lily is pregnant. And Lily decides, okay, I want my coworkers to come over to meet Henry. And then Henry decides, oh, I'm going to show you all this thing that I made. This shit just goes left. It is in one day. It all happens in one day within a matter of hours, from like brunch to the end of the day. The chapters are quick. It is a little gory, so if you don't like gore, because there are, well, I won't even say it's gory. Like, if you think beheadings are gory, that's kind of the level, like off with her head type thing. But it's not like boiled you in a pot and pulled out your intestines type gory. I don't know if that helps. But I highly recommend. This one, Alice Feeney, Good Bad Girl. Okay. This one is not really... Okay, this is a very light thriller. So if you're somebody who wants a thriller, but you don't want something that might be gory or too scary, this is for you, right? It's kind of like a mystery. Okay, I read Rock, Paper, Scissors. I liked Rock, Paper, Scissors. I will say I liked reading this one more, I think, because there were a lot more characters in this one. But it's not the kind of thriller where I feel like your heart is pumping out of your chest. One thing I will say, Alice dragged it, because I feel like it'll literally be like when they're about to connect the dots, they walk right past each other. And I was like, really? We gotta go through this again? Okay, so a baby gets stolen at a supermarket, right? And years later, someone is murdered at a home care facility. So we do have our old folks. You know, I like old folks. The old lady in this book, I ain't gonna lie, she was funny. And basically, it surrounds, the cases link to one another, but there's literally someone behind the scenes driving part of this story. The woman that I said was funny, she was kind of like a shitty person, though. For what she did, I don't even know if I can see I understand, but in her mind, she was doing the right thing. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. But I didn't hate it, but it's just not, it's more mystery, less thriller. I bit back my book. It's more mystery, less thriller. And it's an easy read. It's an easy read. So I liked it. I liked it. Ronald Malfi, Small Town Horror. I listened to this one on audiobook. Only because I didn't have another, like, I feel like this would have 70% been enjoyable to read. I do feel like there were some lulls in it. I did enjoy the audiobook of this, but I started doing this one. So the reading was easy, but I started doing it on audiobook because I had finished my last one and I was like working out and I was like, and working out and sitting at my desk at work and driving the car, and I was like, okay, I need a book to read on audiobook, so I just put this one on. I did enjoy this one. This is about a guy who's old time friend, like he left this town, he was like, I ain't going back, and he calls and he's like, I need you to pull up. So he goes, and basically his friend's wife is missing. The thing is, there is a force that might be causing certain things to happen in this small town, and some people are believers, some of the friend group aren't. The person who isn't, he is a dick. I did not like him. Sometimes you just have to ask for forgiveness and things will get better for you. And the other thing I'm going to say for this book is, I don't know. There was a shocking twist because I didn't understand why he did some things in this book, concealing certain things about himself. I didn't understand why. You won't understand until the end. So I did like that twist, but I'm just like, yeah, it does give those small horror, the witch that lives down the street. So basically they're trying to figure out where's the missing wife? Did the husband actually do something to the wife? Why are crazy things happening that seem to be linking back to the thing that happened in the past? And don't do shitty stuff to people. Like, that's also moral of the story. This is the last one, Here in the Dark. Absolutely need to do this one on audiobook because the first chapter took me 2 days. It was only like 14 pages. Took me 2 days. It's by Alexis, Soloski. Now, I will say, I was listening to the audiobook and it trickled over into like this bonus thing with the author. And the beginning part of this book actually happened to her. So I understand why she wrote the book. I just don't think she did it justice. Because her thing was like, I wonder what would have happened if this is how the situation turned out. I think she just did a really bad job of it. I also think that she talks too much. She uses too many words. This was a short one. It was only a little over 200 pages. But it just had so many freaking words that didn't need to be there. What I hated about the audiobook, though, is that it is set in New York. And so they were trying to, I guess, beat a New Yorker. Like, I ain't never heard the F-bomb drop so many unnecessary times in my life. And it was like you trying too hard. So it made it really, and even with the accents, it just made it so hard to listen to. And the main character made dumb decisions. And I also, like, we have to, okay, if they're going to make dumb decisions, like, don't let your dumb decision be, like, you're taking medical advice about your mental health from a known druggie that you met at the mental help situation, and then you got a heart problem, but you don't take your meds, and you can't, and then you just doing everybody, which if you want to do that, do you, but here's the problem, she was doing it to cope with it was just like, you got too much stuff, and I just didn't care. Like, so basically, Vivian she used to be an actress, her mom passed away, they would always go to these shows, she's now a critic, and someone does an interview for her. And after that interview, that person goes missing. And so she goes down this rabbit hole to find the person. Y'all, this is a mystery. It is not a thriller. It is a mystery. It's a bad mystery. And, okay, maybe you shouldn't read this book. It's a bad mystery. And the end is so freaking out of you can't even say left field. When I got to the end of the book and I found out what was going on, I was like, you got to be shitting me. It's just dumb. Don't read it. But if you've read it, I want to know if you think the same thing. People on Goodreads agree. It only has like a 3-something, and everybody was pretty much saying that, like, it was just too much. And I feel like the idea of her trying to figure out, like, how would this have looked if this actually occurred was great. But I don't think she was good at it. I don't think she was good at it. This is not her calling. It's not. So that's it. All 19 books that we read this month. Let me know if y'all have read any of these or thinking about reading any of these, or what did you read in February? Y'all, my brain hurts. My brain hurts, and I have been reading slowly now. It's only March 2nd, and I am more than halfway through one book. But my brain kind of hurts, so I've been taking it slow. But yeah, just let me know what you guys have read. I hope you really enjoy this. I did have fun reading all my shorties in February, so I can't even lie, that was fun. Getting more into audiobooks was super fun. And being able to kind of tell you, is the audiobook great, is also a good thing, I think. And whether or not an audiobook will save a book. I listened to it. You know what I also think? I have a hard time not reading a book. Like, I can't DNF a book. Because, one, I already paid for it. So I feel like I need to read it. Doing it on an audiobook helps me not DNF that book. But sometimes my ears don't want to hear it like this shit. Yo, one time I had to actually rewind it like 5 to 6 times to actually figure out what the lady was saying because they talk so much. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about this book. Let me know what you read. Hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Sho'Shanna. If you are new here, thanks for hanging out. Join the family. And if you are returning, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. See you